starting a business, especially for me when I was like 15, 16 years old, it is like 11 plus skills that you need to be proficient in to run a business that is legit. With sales, all you need to do is focus on one thing. You wake up, you be on a triage call, or you try and get on a triage call. And just by nature of you being a part of these high level companies, you start to pick up other aspects of skills. When I was like trying to start drop shipping and Amazon FBA, the main videos that I saw were just like short Instagram, like TikTok videos. And I'm like, are these like real people actually doing this? Like, what's going on? What actually really built my trust, these podcast videos. Like there's real people who can actually get into this field of making money online, and it's relatable. My first commission month, it was tough for me because I was still like ramping up. I made like 2K. My best month during that summer period before I went back to school, I made like 6 grand.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to the Remote Closing Academy podcast. I'm literally kind of nervous. I was telling our guest right before. So we're going to call this season 2. I'm going to have a full-on breakdown video of what's the deal. Is RCA back? Is it not? What is like the whole breakdown? We'll have a full video on that. But I just want to give the time to our guest today. We have Mr. Luke, and he's just going to break through his entire process of like, because it's been what would you say, probably about 2 years since you initially came into RCA, and now he's like he's one of our setters at RCA, the new revamped 2.0 RCA. I think that's what we're gonna call it, RCA 2.0. So, dude, I'll stop talking. Welcome to the podcast. How's it going, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Dude, yeah, we were talking before this, and I was like, yeah, I'm like nervous, but also like, what do I say? Like, I almost feel like I haven't done this in like a year and a half. So I'm just getting back into the swing of things. So how we like to do these episodes is really just diving into like your experience, not only of like what were you doing before remote closing, but also we have like with your episode, you've been in actual roles in 5-ish different roles, or 4 to 5 different offers over the last year or and some change. And we'll talk a lot about that towards the end of the episode. But dude, let's just like rewind the clocks, go back before you found RCA, because you're 18 now. So back then you were 15, 16. So yeah, just bring us all the way back to before you got into remote closing.
Love it. Yeah. So before I got into remote closing, I was 16 and I was a sophomore in high school when I joined. So essentially, the little bit of backstory, I come from a very military family. So, like, I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My older 2 siblings are in the military. My dad was in the military. His dad was in the military, etc. And I just identified very early on, like, that was not the path that I wanted to go down and take. So as everybody or a lot of people at the time, I was just seeing, make money online, like over and over and over again. So I was like, all right, might as well check out some of these things. So the first thing I actually tried to start, and this would have been when I was like probably 15, is I tried to start my own drop shipping store. Like a lot,
Like a classic.
yeah, a classic. And long story short, it was a lot harder than I thought it was. The ads that I was seeing, they made it way easier than what it actually was. And being like a 15, 16-year-old, I didn't have all the skills to be able to like actually run a business successfully. So I think I ran ads for like one day and I ended up having like one sale from like a family member, which is pretty funny. But long story short, stopped that, and I started getting targeted ads for appointment setting. And it actually started by a DM like setting role, kind of like, hey, send messages from these business owners' Instagram accounts, make X amount of money. And I was like, all right, this seems a lot simpler. So I did that. I think I bought like a $20 to $30 course that had a bunch of videos in it. And I landed a DM setting position. So I was technically like an SDR, but the role itself, which kind of gets into why I joined RCA, but the role itself was like cold, like ice cold. So like they had me like reaching out people on LinkedIn, sending a bunch of messages, and I'm like, this sucks. Like this is not really fun. And like, I don't want to be doing this. So that was probably like March of 2023. And then April of 2023, I really decided like, I want to learn this skill set more. I want to be in like a legit opportunity. And that's when I decided to invest into RCA.
Nice. So what's obviously there's a big jump from a 27 to $37 course to a higher ticket kind of like remote closing program that we had. Because at the time, I mean, we there was a point where we had like 30 group calls a week. We had like 6 or 7, or honestly even more coaches than that. So obviously we had to recoup some of what we were putting out there in payroll. But like, what was the kind of like mindset? Like, how did you, I guess, for lack of a better word, like get into and upgrade that mindset of like, okay, $27 upwards to, something more high ticket.
Yeah. Well, number one, I saw like the income potential. And at the time, like I was a sophomore in high school. So I really compared it against like college, right? Of like, okay, I'm going to finish high school, go to college, invest, two, 300 grand to be able to make 60, 70K a year at best. And like take so many years and years and years trying to pay off debt. And the investment made so much sense. Like I was able to make my money back, I think, in a few months. But yeah, I saw the ROI against like the major like investments that people make when they're my age. And I'm like, why is everybody not doing this? Like this is makes way more sense. So I just saw really like the financial ROI to it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think, even if we're comparing 2 or 3 years ago when we started RCA, there was some people that were getting to, like, privy kinda to that idea of, investing yourself, compare and contrast against, traditional schooling and things like that. But, like, I feel like just over the last, like, year, it's just become even more and more like, hey, things happening in the world and, all from a government standpoint, all these things, like, it's just opening up people's minds of like, maybe it's just not the way, right? Like, and doing something more alternative in the alternative education industry. So, okay, so you jump into RCA. What happened after that? So, do you remember like the month and the year, just so we have context?
Yeah, April of 2023 is when I
Nice. Was it? Do you know what day? I just that's the kind of question.
I think it was like a Thursday. I remember that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. No, it's funny because my birthday is the 19th, so I was like, oh, maybe he jumped into my birthday. That's funny. Um, okay, so you jump in April. You said 2023.
Yes.
Nice. So what was kind of the process from there? How quickly did you jump into the information? Just kind of your initial thoughts when you first jumped in.
Yeah. Well, I dove into the information and at the time, like I did have a lot of things going on. So I was still going to high school from like 7 a.m. to like 2 p.m. And I was also playing soccer at the time, which I had like maybe 3 to 4 practices a week, one game on the weekend. But I, if I could look back, I remember just having my headphones in and just listening to Cole like 24/7. Like I'm on walks, literally when I'm like in school in the hallways, I have like Cole Gordon in my ears, like nobody talk to me. I'm listening to Cole Gordon. And this is the classic story I like telling, but at the time there's so many coaching calls. There's one specifically that I would join, like the setter call reviews. And it was during the middle of the day, so I think it was maybe like noon or 1 o'clock, and I was still in school at this time. And I remember I would have like Spanish class or some class like right at that time. So what I would do is I would submit my call the night before and then message the coach like, "Hey, will you make sure to do our call review at like 12:40 or 12:50?" And then the next day, I would go up to the teacher and be like, "Hey, sir, can I go to
Bathroom.
the bathroom?" So
Yep.
and I'd be in the hallway getting my calls reviewed. There's like some other students going out to me like, "What is this guy doing?" Uh,
This guy's on a sales call in the middle of the hallway. Dude, that's so funny. Well, I mean, even on top of that, dude, like it just you hear like the classic stories from everyone. It's like, I was selling candy since I was like 3 years old, or I was making a what's it called? Like a lemonade stand, things like that. But like you were kind of living that. You're just like, all right, I'm going to the bathroom, taking these setting calls or getting my calls reviewed, which I think that's kind of the recipe to success, right? You don't make the excuse that, oh, I'm in school. It's like, okay, cool, I'm in school, but like how do I still get closer to where I wanna be? Okay, continue, sorry.
yeah. So that lasted for about like until June of 2023. That's when school was out and it was summertime. And I remember finals of that year of school, like a few days later, I interviewed for a company that I ended up getting a job for and like a setter position. So I had the summer to work full time at this offer, and it was incredible. Like I can get into like how big that offer was and the way it was structured for it being my first opportunity. But for me, joining RCA in April with everything I had going on, it took me 2 months to get a role that was like I can't stress this enough, but like infinitely better than like the DN setting role that I had before. And with everything going on, it took me like 60 days.
Yeah. So you're saying 60 days from jumping into RCA and then actually getting the offer?
Or I would say April, May, June. Yeah, so like 60 days.
Give or take 60, 90 days. I mean, which is still, pretty quick. I mean, when we're making that comparison of like, okay, you can go to school for 4 years and like maybe potentially get a job, or you come in, you do the work, and you're now in place in what you would probably get paid at a job that would have taken 4 years. You hit that in 90 days. So I think, I'll
Yeah.
take the 90 days over 4 years any day of the week. So what would you do? We kind of talked about it, right? In terms of just taking the action and doing what you need to do to see success. But what would you attribute, like if someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, I just jumped into RCA and I want to get to where Luke was in 30, 60, 90 days, right? What would you recommend based on what your experience, what you did?
Yeah, I would say the main thing that helped me the most was the commitment and following through. Like for me at the time, investing bad amount of money when I was 16, like I drained my entire bank account. And it was like money that I saved up for like a long time from like Christmas, birthdays, all this stuff. And it was gone. So I was essentially like, if I'm investing this money towards like this outcome, I'm going to do everything I could because I was also in a position to where I also like needed to make money to pay off the rest of the program. So there's a lot of commitment on my side. And yeah, I just took a bunch of action after investing.
Yeah. So in terms of like the action, right? Because I think, taking action is one thing. What would you say is like a tangible list for someone? It's like go to this amount of coaching calls, get this amount of calls reviewed. Like maybe you go a little bit deeper on like the tactical there.
Yeah. So I think what helped me the most was the getting my calls reviewed. That was a main thing. And there's like a library where all of the setter training call recordings were, and I watched those like over and over and over. Like I binged those every single day. Um and I would love the aspect of I would listen to one of those calls and then I would do another mock call myself, do a call myself, then I would get that call reviewed and get that one listened to, and then I'd get like one or two pieces of like actionable steps and then implement that again into my next mock call, get it reviewed, get one to two pieces of feedback, implement that. So it was really like taking the support inside of those calls and then like continuously getting those calls reviewed like week over week, like when I'm in school and actually implementing the feedback that I was getting and like continuing that process.
Hmm. It's so funny you say that because I've been in like the coaching space, we'll say, since like 2017. And I've always been like some sort of coach, whether it's coaching for agencies, coaching for, sales, coaching for content, whatever. And that was like always the biggest thing that I found for students that didn't see success was like they would come and ask for feedback, but they wouldn't implement it. And then we would go to the call review or content review or whatever, like the next time. And it was like, dude, we literally just like 2 days ago, I gave you this feedback of like, don't, talk after you drop the price or, whatever the feedback is. And it's like, dude, you just did it again. So like, what's going on? So yeah, I think that's huge. Is like, and it might sound really obvious, but it's like you get feedback and then you like actually implement the feedback, and there you go. Like you're gonna be a lot better than where you were before. So kudos to you on that. So yeah, I do want to dive into like the offer portion of it because I think again, like you have that what we were talking about before is a lot of times when I would bring people onto a version one or season one of the podcast is people would either just get placed or be in their role for, a short amount of time, or not short, but just, to have enough content, we'll say, or stuff to talk about. So I guess what was the first, you don't have to go into the names of the offers or anything, but like the type of offers and just like how was that experience? What was like your first month of commission? Just the juicy stuff that people would be wondering about.
Yeah, totally. So the first offer I ended up joining, the way I found it was I used like the self-sourcing things that were inside of the program, and it was like a Facebook group that I reached out to, group interview, got hired on the spot. But anyway, it was a like unicorn offer looking back. It was an Airbnb coaching offer. So essentially the program was teaching people how to start Airbnb businesses, invest into real estate, all this kind of stuff. And, just for some context, the team was like 50 to 60 setters. There's probably around like 10 to 12 closers. And they also had this position called finishers to where once the closer, like, went through the deal, they would pass it off to the finisher so they could be on back to back calls all day long.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I see.
yeah, so that was the environment that I was in. And they were pumping, when I joined at least, they were doing around like 890K in cash per week. So they were pushing like $1 million a week in cash when I joined. And I remember like the first sales meeting that I was on, it was like a week after school just got out. And keep in mind, it's my first role. I'm like this 16-year-old kid. And I show up on the sales meeting on Monday and I'm like at my desk in my chair. I'm shaking because I'm so nervous. And like they're going through all the numbers and everything. And I think that, like, the business owner was on, like, a yacht, during the Zoom call. He, like, had his computer up on his so, like, going from, like, school to that offer when summer started, I was like, "What the hell did I just jump into? Like, this is really crazy." And, that my first commission month, it was tough for me because I was still, like, ramping up. I would probably say I made, like, maybe 1 or 2K my first month, and then, probably my best month during that summer period before I went, like, back to school. In August, I made, like, 6 grand.
So yeah, so if the first month was 2, which I mean, that's still pretty good on like a brand new offer, you're still ramping, like all that kind of stuff. Like I think that's still pretty solid, right? On again, very first offer. So what were some of the things that you did, again, actionable steps that someone can take? Like, okay, I'm an appointment setter, I'm jumping on my first offer. How do I ramp as quickly as possible?
Mhm. Yeah. I started I would say 2 things. I started modeling the people who were I mean, it sounds so simple. Modeling the people that were making the type of money that I wanted to do. I was literally just, like, asking, like, what were they doing? I was listening to their calls and just seeing, like, what they were doing to be able to see the type of results that I wanted. And the second thing is, like, tracking my data. Like, if I could go back, like, with the experience that I have, go back, like, I was doing it to some degree, but, the main thing I started picking up on was it was, like, extreme ownership over my own, like, personal metrics. So, like, if somebody did not show up to the call, I'm listening back to that call, figuring out why they didn't show up. If they showed up, they got offered, but they didn't close, well, what was the reason why they didn't close? And like figuring out what I can do on my process, like as a setter, speaking with the person in order to put myself in the best position for success. Um, I probably did do that to the level that I would know how to do it now, but that's what I would say I kind of did to see an uptick there.
Yeah, that's hindsight is 2020, but I think one thing that I'll just add to that too, that I think has helped you see some of that success is number one, like yes, taking extreme ownership of the metrics and things like that. But I think more importantly is you, I'm sure on like sales meetings or meetings with a sales manager or Brian, shout out to Brian, is you have because you have those numbers, you could like answer questions effectively and have the foresight and awareness, right? That, this is why I'm performing, this is why I'm not performing. And it's based on data, not like, well, it's probably because, or I think it's because like once you take the thinking and the feeling and the assuming out of the decisions, it helps you. And then it also shows the sales manager, owner, whatever that you're taking that personal accountability. So, okay. So you were in that offer and then you kind of move to a couple different ones. So I guess why, if you can talk about it, like why did you move from that one to the next one? And, what was kind of the next processes? Because we won't go, like, that deep into everyone because 'cause we'll probably be here for 2 hours. But, just some insights of why did you leave that offer and things like that?
Totally. Yeah. Well, so one thing to note about this offer as well was all of the setters were paid 100% on commission. So the 50 to 60 setters that were on the team, that fluctuated. Like the churn rate was very, very, very high on that team specifically. And for me, being on the team for 13 months, I was like so called like a veteran. I'm like, I'm just this kid, like I'm a veteran. But for that offer specifically, I was on there for a long time. I would say the main reason why I left was so I joined in June of 2023, and I remember in December, you know how I said they were like pushing $1 million a week cash, right when I joined. So 6 months later, they that got cut in half, and then 6 months after that, that got cut in half again. And so essentially, I like I'll say this as well. That offer was like I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity for like the first setter role because it was amazing. Like the culture, everything. I just remember it being such like an intoxicating environment to be in. So that was incredible. But I just got to a point where I was like, hey guys, I love the skills that I build here, but I see the writing on the wall and I want to be able to take my skills elsewhere. So then I decided to leave. That was like July of 2024 of last year.
Okay, cool. And then that was so Airbnb and then transition into you said it was like an Amazon FBA offer was next?
Amazon FBA offer, yeah.
And then what was the, kind of outcome there? How long were you there? Like, what was the experience, things like that?
Yeah, so this next offer was probably the complete other side of the spectrum comparative to the first offer that I was on. Uh, it's pretty funny looking back, but this next offer that I joined, it they were doing like 150 to 200K per month in cash. So like going from almost $1 million a week in cash to 150K a month, like big difference. I was also the very first setter to join that offer. So after being a part of like a very streamlined, like conveyor belt, I'm one cog in the machine kind of deal to having no systems, no processes, literally starting from scratch. Like it was the complete polar opposite experience. And the reason why I actually got connected with that offer was the prior manager at the other offer that I was on. We had a good relationship, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come on this offer? Help me build out the setting team." I was like, "Sure." So I do that, and very quickly they were able to bring on more setters. And I think 90 days after I joined, they had gone from 150K a month to 400K a month in cash, and there's like maybe 3 to 4 setters on the team. So like that on the other just think of the complete other side of the spectrum, comparative to the first offer.
Okay. And with that too, I mean, that's huge, like, and how long were you there? Sorry, maybe I missed that.
I was there from like July until November, so that like 4 months on that offer.
Okay, so yeah, so you stuck it out for a good amount of time, and I think, like, the owners of that offer probably, like, really respected what you were doing too, because like, it's a lot to go into, an offer that has no systems, no processes, and you kinda, like, build that out, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people can take away is, like, if you can get in with, like, a good offer and, the way you get into good offer is just, like, you get really good at your skill set, right, and interview really well and put the time into learning your craft, and then when you do that, you just get to learn so much of, like, how a good business, right, or a larger business is run, and then you become much more valuable because you can then take some of that information and those systems and processes of like, "Oh, well, this is how we did it, at this offer," and they probably, I mean, really value you know what I mean? So you transition from that one into what type of offer? All biz op, big biz op guy, but what was the
Well,
next one?
yeah, it was a credit hacking, like, we taught people how to fly business and first class and 4 or 5-star hotels for free on credit card points.
Sweet. And what was your just overall experience there, learning lessons, overall things that you would tell someone going into a new offer?
Yeah, so, I was on that offer for, I think, around, like, 3 months. So, the shortest time out of, like, the prior offers that I've been on. Great team, great product. I had a hard time transitioning from, like, the sales kinda process that they had because it was very different from, like, a business opportunity to, like, Airbnb, Amazon FBA to, like, credit card points. So, I had a hard time adapting to that. Um, and like it was a closers.io pipeline offer. So the way the company was structured was very solid. The lead flow was pretty ridiculous. It was really, really good. But I had a hard time like adjusting myself to, like, speaking to that specific audience in that way, and, I struggled on that offer. It was hard for me to get back to the amount of money I was making on the other B2C offers, and, yeah, I ended up leaving that company after 3 months after, like, this is tough for me, so I didn't see that much success on that offer, but it was a great learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's and maybe this isn't the best analogy, but it's like, if you're a salesperson, right, you can almost like, or setter or whatever, right, just in the sales realm, you can almost equate it to like, okay, I'm a sports player, right? And someone that plays baseball, if they try to go play, volleyball or whatever other sport, right? They try to play, soccer or whatever, right? It's like, yeah, they might be able to like kind of do it, but it's like you're learning a whole different skill set, a whole different game, right? It's like in the grand scheme, you could probably see success if you stuck it out long enough. But then, like you said, it's like you're kind of used to these specific systems, processes, things like that, and you're then having to kind of relearn everything from an offer perspective and talking to clients that are very different from the avatar than you're used to. So I definitely get that. Going through kind of that process because the next offer kind of leads to where we are today, right in 2025. So what would you give to maybe someone that is listening to this that again they're becoming an appointment setter, they're maybe starting their first offer, just to let them know like don't be discouraged if you go through multiple offers because it's just a part of the process. Like any advice for maybe like a newer setter that is trying to find that offer and has to go through a couple different to then find it.
Yeah, totally. I would say I would equate this industry. It's a very like entrepreneurial industry. Like when you're a setter or a closer, you're not really like a W-2 or like employee per se, because you're generating these companies tons and tons of money. So I would say like the way I was thinking about it was, these are just like different business opportunities, and I've heard like so many people, it took me like, 7 to 10 different businesses to start before I found the one that like, found me success. So like that's the way I equated it to. Like, okay, maybe this offer didn't work out, but there's another one for me out there. And like there's so many offers as well where you might really resonate with the culture there. You might really resonate with who you're speaking to and like the culture of the team, or there might be other offers where it's the complete opposite. And I feel very lucky and grateful to have a lot of these different experiences on these different offers to kind of see like where I want to fit myself into and the kind of offer that I want to be in. So
Yeah,
that's
that's huge. I mean, the first thing that I thought about was people say like you have to experience the highs to know the lows, right? So it's like when you join that first offer, you kind of got that high of like, oh, this is like a large company. This is how they run their stuff. So like if you would have went into, let's say, the second offer that you went to, if you went into that one first, that would almost be your baseline. And you're like, oh, like this is like, decent. Like I have a little bit of control. I'm building on my own systems, things like that. But because that didn't happen, you're like you then have like that litmus test of like, oh, this is like, again, not saying one is good or bad, but like this is this level, this is down here and wherever, right? Um, so for you, so that kind of leads again where we are today. So I guess what is your 'cause I think a really big question for a lot of people is especially if they come in as a setter, right? A lot of people assume, hey, I'm going to come in as a setter and be a setter for a little bit, and then I'm going to upgrade to a closer. So is like, what is your mindset around that? And like, do you have aspirations to become a closer? Like, I'm kind of just curious on that overall.
Yeah. Uh, this perspective might change in the future, but what I see myself right now is moving more into setter leadership over moving into a closer. So the offer that I was just on before this one, again, I was the first setter on the offer, doing some appointment setting in accordance to bringing on two other setters and then like leading them as well to some degree. So, from my perspective right now, I love setting. I love outbound. I think a lot of these companies out there, it's such a value add to have like a setter who knows what they're doing and can call all of their leads and just help them make more money, have a higher return on their ad spend. So I just see that being a very high like value proposition to these business owners. So right now see myself doing like outbound management, like fractional outbound management over closing. Again, that might change, but that's just my perspective right now.
Yeah, I like that perspective. I mean, everyone's perspective is their own, right? But it's I just think there's always that mindset, or it's almost like a path that is already laid out. And then maybe to some of my fault, because some of my old videos I would talk about, hey, like come in as an appointment. Like, if you want to be a closer, just come in as an appointment setter, and then you can ascend, right? So I think just having an idea of, some people might not know that, oh, setter leadership is a thing, right? There is a level up before, I guess, above, not above, but you know what I'm saying, like higher than setting and then into closing and things like that. And the thing is too, like when you spend so much time getting really good at a skill set, and you can like then teach other people that same skill set, it, like you said, it's almost better that you just help people do that because that's just what you're good at, right? Versus like learning, because yeah, setting and closing, there's a lot of similarities in terms of learning there. But at the same time, like it's a different skill set, right? It's like you kind of, not saying setting is easier, but I mean you kind of just like, all right, you good, you're not? No, okay, cool, you're gone. You are, okay, cool, go talk to this other guy, right? And then it's like you hope that they close them down. Um I guess like kind of rounding out like last couple questions. So any like tips that you found, because I think especially in the industry right now, more so through just like cold traffic and calls being booked directly on calendars, but show rate, right? Show rate is a really big kind of thing that a lot of companies are talking about. Like, we need to increase show rate because more calls that show up equals more offers made equals more money that is made. So any just recommendations or tips to increase show rate as an appointment center?
Hmm. Totally. The main thing that I found, like, there's, tie downs at the end that like need to happen. Like, make sure the person is in a good position, like, they put on their calendar, all that stuff. What I've seen is like, what degree of connection did you build with the person? Do they trust you? And did you just clearly have a conversation that like, you can clearly see the problem that they have and gave them confidence that you can solve it. And whenever I have conversations like that, I just have full trust that it was a good enough conversation that it's worth the person carving out 45 minutes of their time to show up to. So there's a lot of, automations and, AI tools, things that you can use. I think those are great and they have their place. But what I found with my experience is human connection and making that even over the phone for a short, like 5-10 minute has made the biggest difference for my show rate.
I'm so glad you mentioned the AI thing, because I'll ask you another question on that. But I
Yeah.
think like just it's so funny, like coming back into this industry. It's been like a year. Coming back and seeing even just over the last year and some change, like how much the market has changed. Like, again, 2 years ago when we first 2, 3 years ago when we first started, it's like no one knew what high ticket closing was in the grand scheme, right? It wasn't really like a mainstream thing. I feel like a hipster. And no one knew, like, remote closing. We created the word or Cole did, right? He created the word remote closing back in like 2021. And so it's just interesting to see now, like the big thing is like, AI replacing appointment setters. And back to your point, I just think from a metric that matters the most is show rate and their close rate, right? And like in my opinion, at least right now, and not, maybe this comes back up 6 months or a year from now, and AI like callers have completely taken over the high ticket space. I don't think that's the case, but I've been wrong before. Is I think just that like you said, the human connection is what's getting like that is what is differentiating the like an AI setter, right? Versus like an actual human being that's talking on the other end, right? I think the opposite is going to happen. I talked to Cole about this the other day, is I think the opposite is going to happen is the next 6 to 12 months, it's actually going to be more valuable to be like a setter and a closer because there's all these AI products and everything's going to be AI. So what happens when everything is one thing? Well, people want the opposite, right? They want something that's different. So anyway, a little sneak peek into some of the content that'll be putting out here on the channel. So what would you say maybe are some biggest mistakes that appointment setters make when they first jump into an offer, whether it was mistakes that you made or just in general? Because I'm sure you've been around a lot of setters.
Mm, yeah. Uh, I would say, that is a big question. I would say the main thing, or like the thing that's helped me a bunch, is separating like the results that you were seeing and like the outcomes of your calls and like you yourself as a person. What I mean by that, I'll kind of try and extrapolate it out. Um, it's kind of the difference between doing and being. What you do does not inform who you are. Rather, what you do is a reflection of who you are. And, Aaron, you were the, OGs at RCA. You remember when there's bracelets going around of, like, WWCG, like, what would Cole Gordon do? It's like,
Yep.
assume the role of Cole Gordon and then think like, "Okay, if I am Cole Gordon, like, what would I do from there?" And, that really helped me a bunch in the beginning of, like, assuming the role of, "Okay, like, if I'm a setter and I wanna make this amount of money, what would a setter at that amount of money, what would they say?"
Yeah. So rounding out kind of the last couple things here. So and it's so funny because I feel like it was long ago, but also yesterday that when we recorded or when I recorded one of the last episodes. But what would be just some one of the things that you would say to someone that's either on the fence of jumping into like the remote high ticket space in general, not necessarily working with us, but just they're looking at like your spry 15-year-old self, right? They're looking at Amazon FBA and drop shipping and all these different things. What would you say to them to don't do those things and then just jump in as an appointment setter or closer?
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say when you're starting a business, especially for me when I was, like, 15, 16 years old, it is, like, 11 plus skills that you need to be proficient in to run a business that is legit, and, with sales, all you need to do is focus on one thing. Like, you wake up, you be on a triage call, or you try and get on a triage call. Like, it's very, very simple. And just by nature of you being a part of these like very high level companies, you start to pick up other aspects of skills just by like being there and being inside of the company and like picking up on a lot of the things that attribute it to get to that point. And, also, like, going back to the comparisons of, like, going to college or this is, like, you're not necessarily, like, learning from a classroom or theory or anything in college. With this, you're learning, like, in the trenches every single day in the business, while you're getting paid.
Love it. And then the follow-up to that is what would you say to someone that's on the fence of like, okay, they decided appointment setting, closing. I mean, at this point, like, dude, year and a half ago, 2 years, I feel like I've said that 15 times in this episode, probably more than that. But really, like, 2 years ago, is there was really not that many high ticket offers, high ticket salespeople out there, but now there's a lot of them. A lot of them have jumped out and they were closers for like 13 seconds and then decided to launch an offer. I digress. So what would you say to someone that's on the fence of just jumping in and working with us at RCA?
I would say if you're on the fence and you're thinking about doing it, I just went through one by one of like all these podcast videos because when I was like trying to start drop shipping and Amazon FBA, the main videos that I saw were just like short, like little Instagram, like TikTok videos. And I'm like, are these like real people actually doing this? Like, what's going on? And what actually like really built my trust was I was like, these podcast videos, like there's real people who can actually get into this field of making money online, and like it's relatable. So I would say go watch like 2 or 3 other of these like YouTube podcast videos, see people that you might resonate with, and just like eventually like see it for yourself, see like the results that people are getting. Um, that's what I would say.
There you go, dude. So we'll finish up here. We're coming up on the hour. So for those of you that are, I mean, first of all, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's really cool to see kind of the full circle of, you were in RCA, you came in as a student, jumped on a bunch of offers, and it's now come full circle where you're on the RCA team. So I'm excited to see what happens, and you're already crushing it so far. Of what just the 3 days that we've actually been live. So for those of you that are checking this out, feel free to. I mean, if you made it this far, we've been talking for like 45 minutes, almost an hour at this point, and you're probably interested to be like, how do I become a closer, et cetera. I want to make this online money. How do I do that? Well, if you click the link down in the description below, it's going to bring you to a training where you can check out the training. And there's no payment link or anything on that specific video itself. You can just watch through it and check it out and see what this whole remote closing thing is about and get a little bit more in depth and detail there. So you can click the link down there in the description. Also in the podcast app, you can click that link down there as well. And you might get a call from Luke in like he's super quick on it. So you know his voice now, and you might hear him, and he'll be on the call. So for those of you that are hanging out, welcome back to the Remote Closing Academy podcast. Super excited to be back, and obviously posting a ton of content here on the channel. Click the link down in the description if you want to check it out. Check out that training. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Talk soon. Peace.
Peace.